What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Didn't Ask podcast. Hi, if this is your first episode, and welcome back if this is your 46th episode, because my oh my, we already hit 46. We're getting so close to the big 50, and man, that should be an extravaganza. I don't know what I'm gonna do for episode 50, but we will find out very soon because we're only a couple of weeks away. How's everybody doing? We're getting to the end of January already. For me, this month flew by so quickly. I cannot believe that we are already almost into February, which means we're getting into game season. Or how like some people would like to call it, review season. Because February is going to be a very busy month for gaming. We're going to get Dying Light 2, we're gonna get Sifu, we're gonna get Elden Ring, we're gonna get Horizon Forbidden West. There are so many games on the horizon, pun not intended, that, man, it's gonna be so much fun to be playing some more games and some new games, finally, some new PlayStation 5 games in the next couple of weeks. But well, that's still quite a few days ahead of us. So let's take a look back quickly. How was everybody's weekend? Did you have a good weekend? I did pretty much, yeah. I visited the grandparents and I watched UFC. What an interesting two title fights we had, because we had Brandon Moreno versus Figueiredo, and man, that match was back and forth, really just throughout all 5 rounds. And it was really hard to determine who was going to be the winner at the end of that fight. But Figueiredo, he did it. He took his title back, and now the two guys are 1-1. So Moreno won 1, Figueiredo won 1, and then they had one draw. And they're now probably going to fight for a fourth time, which has never happened in UFC history, I believe. But, once has got to be the first time, and they're probably going to do it in Mexico if UFC can get that going. So that would be a very exciting crowd over there. And then we had, of course, the main event where we had Francis Ngannou taking on Ciryl Gane in a heavyweight bout for the ages. It was a unification match where Ciryl Gane came in as the interim champ, and of course Francis Ngannou came in as the quote-unquote undisputed champ, which technically it was disputed because you have an interim champ, but okay. So yeah, we thought that this was going to be a kickboxing fight, basically. We're going to see some big hands thrown. That's where Francis Ngannou is known for, but we saw Francis Ngannou go to the ground. We saw him grapple, we saw him use jiu-jitsu, try submissions, and it was a bit too much for Ciryl Gane. And we have to say that Ciryl Gane is pretty new still in his MMA journey. He's been doing this for, I believe, like 4 or 5 years maybe. It's not that much, and he has like 8 matches on his card. But yeah, it was a very interesting match, something that not many of us predicted, not what we expected. Personally, I was expecting Francis Ngannou to knock Ciryl Gane out in the second round, but that clearly didn't happen because they did all 5 rounds, which, again, it was a good showing for Francis Ngannou. It showed how versatile he has become, that even though he has fucking hands of steel, that he can also grapple and go for submissions. And it shows that he has the durability in him to go for 5 rounds instead of knocking everybody out in the first couple. So yeah, that was a fun UFC. But once more, I've been talking about this shit for so many minutes now. This is not a podcast where I talk to you about UFC. It is a podcast where I talk to you about the most popular questions from the Ask Reddit subreddit, because people want answers and I'm trying to give it to them. So let's jump into the first question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, coming from user SingleFunction223, and they ask, If the news headline, celebrity outed as serial killer appeared, who would you expect it to be about? Honestly, kinda thinking about Johnny Depp. I am not a big fan of Johnny Depp, and my friends know this because I keep reminding them. I am just not a big fan of Johnny Depp. I think the guy is a pretty weird dude. I believe he spends like $120,000 on wine every month, which is fucking outrageous. Why the fuck would you do that? Of course, he also kind of plays the same part in every fucking movie. And I know I knock that right now, but then I watch all the Rock movies, and I mean the Dwayne Johnson movies by that. And Dwayne Johnson literally plays the same fucking character in every movie, so it's not really a good excuse. But hey, I still think that Johnny Depp should. I don't know. There is something with that dude that I don't really understand. And while I'm talking to you right now, I'm also scrolling through the comments on this question, and people said Jared Leto, and in particular, the assistant therapist. And yeah, Jared Leto is such a fascinating dude. He's a good actor because he really does disappear in roles where you barely know, who's playing that part because if you've seen trailers at least of House of Gucci, he's completely different, and you wouldn't say that that was Jared Leto whatsoever. And I believe it was the movie The Dallas Buyers Club where he was super skinny, right? Or am I completely wrong with that? Anyways, Jared Leto is such an interesting dude, and he's very much a method actor. So during the Suicide Squad, he sent his co-workers, co-stars, I should say. He sent them weird goodie bags with used condoms, and I don't know. It was fucking weird. And at that point, it was just like, okay, dude, you're taking this a little too far. Maybe slow it down a couple of tinges. So yeah, the assistant therapist, I would kind of agree with you on the Jared Leto one because he's a bit of a weird guy. So, going back to the question asked by user single function 223, if the news headline celebrity outed as a serial killer appeared, who would you expect it to be about? And I would say Johnny Depp is a good option here. But like the assassin therapist said, it could have very well be Jared Leto. So yeah, thank you for your question. Moving on to the second question of today, coming from user Benji3011, and they ask, Man of Reddit, what's something to get for a guy that's equivalent to flowers? Well, the, of course, simple answer would be just get flowers. Some men really like that, and sometimes it's a surprising thing. You don't really do that often. But it really depends in this case what what guy you're talking about. Everybody is a different person, and it's kind of funny that we have this thing just giving flowers to people, or like mostly women, of course, that is such a ingrained thing that if you get somebody a flower they immediately like it, which is something that's very interesting. I've never really thought about that because my grandparents really love getting flowers. My mom loves getting flowers if she gets them, even though we have two cats that really like eating them flowers, which doesn't really work out well. But yeah, it's such an interesting thing to think about that we give people flowers, and that is just a common thing, really. But then, yeah, you're thinking about what is the male equivalent to that. And to me, there is no real male equivalent. So you're gonna have to be a little bit more specific with the person that you're talking to. So, for example, when I get something for my grandpa, I know where to look a little bit. So my grandparents have this. They have a Dolce Gusto machine that uses pods basically to go in there, and then you can make cappuccinos or latte macchiatos, you name it. So sometimes when I do that, I get a box of those things for my grandparents because those pots are pretty expensive, and they really see that machine as a luxury item because they have like a normal coffee machine, slow drip. So that is an option. But for when I look at myself, I really would say do something more practical in the sense of get me some cookies or some chocolates. Right now, for me, for some bullshit medical reasons, I cannot really eat chocolate because it really hurts my mouth. So I would say, get me some cookies. If you get me a tin of cookies, I'm gonna be fucking happy because cookies, in my opinion, very hard to go wrong with. Unless you put some sort of nut on there, then I'm not fine. But in most cases, if you just get me some sugar cookies, some sand cookies, some, I don't know, chocolate cookies, some chocolate chip cookies, huh? I'm gonna be fucking loving you for that moment. So going back to the question asked by user Banshee3011, and they ask, man of Reddit, what's something to get for a guy that's equivalent to flowers? And honestly, I don't think there is a set answer for this, but I would say for me, it would be something like cookies or chocolates because I really like that. But for most people, for some people, it might be a case of beers, or for the other person, it might be sweets or something like that. Just think about what the person likes, listen to what they say, and maybe you can pick up on it. So thank you for your question, Banshee. Moving on to the third question of today. This one a little bit more serious. Asked by user underscore ram gap underscore, and they ask, how do you feel about the death penalty? I am personally very much against the death penalty because I don't really see how and when you would use it. Because I do understand that if person A took person B's life, then person A should meet the same fate. In a sense, I can understand where that comes from. But for me, there is no full way to be like, okay, this person did that, and therefore they need to be punished for that in this manner. And it sounds very fucking confusing, I get it. But the death penalty is such a weird punishment because, in my opinion, you're kind of taking away the pain that somebody feels, right? And I can understand that if you're a parent of your murdered daughter and you see the murderer get murdered, so to speak, I think that could be a very in the moment, I think that could be like a very serene moment, so to speak, because you see that the person that did this to your daughter meets the same fate. But on the other hand, it kind of is the easy way out. And that's what I personally do not like about it. It's such an easy way out when somebody commits a murder and then gets killed in the death penalty. To me, that seems like it's like an easy way out. It's an easy answer. And therefore, I don't really like the death penalty as well. Like, first off, I don't really like the fact that we have no way to make sure that we got the right killer or the person that committed a crime. There is no way for you to 100% guarantee that you got the right person unless it's fully taped and the guy just lays on the floor and waits till the police is there. It's gonna be really hard. And to add to that, it's just, for me, it seems like an easy way out. Because if you just go oh, this person murdered 4 people, so we're just gonna kill him now in the death penalty. It's just okay, so I get that we take the problem out of the society, so to speak. But on the other hand, it's just well, he is not gonna learn from it. It's not gonna put an example up because people just die and then maybe they kill themselves. So to me, it feels like the easy way out. So going back to the question asked by user underscore ramgap underscore, how do you feel about the death penalty? And to me, it's just I don't really like the death penalty. It to me, it feels like an easy way out in the grand scheme, but also in a smaller, more specific way. I feel like it's really hard in 9 out of 10 cases to be okay, we are 100% sure that this is the criminal. the person that committed the crime. I don't really think you can say that with 100% certainty every time. And of course, we also know from the past that the death penalty has been abused by people in racist ways. There are many reports of people just pointing to a certain person because of their skin color or because of their heritage or whatever, and therefore them getting murdered. And I just want to make sure we don't do that shit. So I'm very much against the death penalty rem gap. Thank you for your question. Moving on to the fourth question of today, coming from user Tropical Azure, and they ask, what film that is widely thought of as being rubbish do you actually enjoy? For me, there's a very simple answer, and that is the Flatliners remake. I believe, I'm gonna look it up right now. The movie Flatliners is currently rated at a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 32% audience score, which means that it is a both critically and commercially a fucking disaster. But somehow I really love this movie, and I think it touches on so many fucking interesting things that, yeah, I don't mind this movie. I've watched this movie, I think, now 3 times, 2 or 3 times, once in cinemas and a couple of times at home. Because again, I think it's a very interesting movie. So I go back to it sometimes, and it's also like it's a weird like horror-y action movie. It's very interesting. So going back to the question asked by user Tropical Azure, what film that is widely thought of as being rubbish do you actually enjoy? And again, it's the Flatliners remake, the movie out of 2017, which has currently a score of 4% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 32% audience score, which means that it is absolutely terrible. But I've watched it multiple times and I really, really like it. So, yeah, that would be my answer to you, Tropical Azure. Thank you for your question. And now we move on to the final question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today. And this one comes from apprehensive-wolf999, and they ask, how do you add a little razzle dazzle to a grilled cheese sandwich? I have done this a couple of times. I really like grilled cheese sandwiches. Who doesn't? But sometimes, you want to add a little bit more razzle dazzle, as Apprehensive Wolf says. And for me, the go-to answer would be add honey. If you lather a layer of honey on your bread before you start grilling it, so on the inside, so you do bread, honey, cheese, and then if you're really feeling good, you add a little bit more honey, but I think it might be a little too much if you do that. So it's bread, honey, cheese, bread, and then grill that shit. Ooh-wee! That grilled cheese sandwich is gonna taste so good that you never want anything else in your life. And for me as well, I like making grilled cheeses in a pan, in a frying pan instead of in a grill or something like that. And that also just adds a different flavor texture. So you basically lather the outside of the bread with some butter and then bake them in the frying pan, and that's so nice as well. So going back to your question, apprehensive-wolf999, how do you add a little razzle dazzle to a grilled cheese sandwich? And for me, that would be adding a little bit of honey on the inside of your sandwich and then grilling it in like a sandwich press or whatever the fuck you want, or just making the grilled cheese sandwich in a frying pan by lathering a lot of butter on the outside and then cooking them golden brown delicious. Thank you for your question, Apprehensive Wolf. And now we move on to the final question of today, coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit, asked by a throwaway user 123-199-8-360-110, and they ask, am I the asshole for not wanting to pay for my girlfriend's services, in quotes? Hello, hope all is well with everyone. I, a 23-year-old, have been with my girlfriend, 22-year-old, for a little over 4 months, and all is great. Before her and I got together, I would get my eyebrows threaded by a friend that would charge me $5 at first and then increased it to 10 when she got a studio. Still cheaper than going to an actual eyebrow shop. My girlfriend made comments about the shape they came out and that they were not her preference. She did them once after that for fun, and to me they looked the same, and I told her I really liked them. I need to get them done soon and brought it up to my girlfriend if she could clean them up and reshape my brows. Upon asking, she responds with, "Send me a $20 deposit and a date and time. If you're late after 10 minutes, it'll be an extra dollar every minute." At first, I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She was dead serious. Then, $10 after I'm done. $30 in total if I'm not late. My GF is not an eyebrow artist, nor is he certified or licensed esthetician? I don't know what that word is. I've never seen that word in my life. So, okay. She does not have a shop, nor does she have equipment or the small tweezers and scissors. I asked why I needed to pay her, that we are dating, and that it would be out of courtesy if anything. She responds with, "Well, if you were supporting another bitch before, why can't you support me? Go support that bitch." It's literally 3 times as much as I would pay for my regular brow up lady. I don't charge my GF when I deliver food for her or for massaging her back and feet when she asks. Am I the asshole for being hesitant when hiring her services? I'd rather go with my regular brow lady. What's next? Do I have to pay my GF to cook us a meal? Am I the asshole? And of course, throwaway account. You're not the asshole here. Your girlfriend is taking advantage of this situation. She's literally extorting you for money. You paid $10 at your friend who is an official brow person. And now you have to pay $30 for somebody that doesn't even do this professionally? Nah, fuck that. None of that. We don't want any of that shit. We got none of that. None of that. This girl is taking a piss. Like, seriously, what is she doing? You're not an official brow person, so don't start charging shit like you are. And then you're gonna be asking for fucking extra dollar for every minute I'm late? Fuck off. If you really start threatening with that shit and you're dead serious, if you're doing this as a funny joke, like, oh hey, make an appointment with me and I will get back to you, whatever. That's kind of funny, if you do it once and then, do it for 10 minutes. But if this is a fucking serious person that's literally asking for $20 deposits, then I can say you can go fuck yourself, honestly. I don't even want to be your boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't know what this person is. They have not mentioned their pronoun. So I don't know if this is a boy, girl, in between, or outside of that. Think outside of the box. I don't know if they what they want. But anyways, this is fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You can say like, okay, we can make a deal. If you really want to be that quick, just be like, I'm gonna pay you $5. The rest I will pay in kisses or something like that. Even that would still be kind of cute. Be like, oh, it's you can pay me in kisses. Ho ho ho, that's fun. But this is just bullshit. So I would say throwaway account. I'm not gonna read out the whole number. Am I asshole for not wanting to pay my girlfriend's services? No, of course not. Your girlfriend is extorting you for money, and you shouldn't be paying that shit. Because there is a line in the sand, and if you fucking pass that line, you're even further away from home. So, yeah, you're not the asshole. Thank you for your question. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has been it for the Didn't Ask podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Episode 46 already of this grand show right here. If you did, please leave if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating on Apple Podcast or any other podcast service that lets you like and rate this show. You can find wherever this podcast is on your favorite podcast services, but you can also go to anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. That link will be in the show description. Over here, you can find all the services this podcast is provided to you on. And it also has a box that has message on there, which lets you record a voice memo so you can ask me a question personally. If you don't want your voice to be heard on the podcast, that's totally fine by me. Just say it up front in your message, then I will just read your question out myself, so your question can still be read out on this show. You can also find this podcast on YouTube. It's a pretty fun thing to do every week, so please leave a like so I can see if you are enjoying the show too. I will be back next week, and in the meantime, you can see what I'm watching thanks to tracked.tv. That link will be in the show description as well. And over here, you can see all the shows and movies that I'm watching throughout the week, so you can, watch along with me and maybe even ask me a question about it. Well, I think I've babbled on for long enough. Thanks for listening to this episode, and I hope to see you back next week. Goodbye.